Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Good morning again.
Good morning.
I am Mrs. Kimberly, the Executive Director of the Bahamas Institute of Financial Services. And on behalf of BIF's President, Mr. Ryan Pinder, who has taken time from his busy schedule to be with us, and the members of the Education Committee and Council, we are delighted to be the host for your professional development seminar for teachers of Mathematics Department of the Ministry of Education. In 2014 and 2015, we collaborated with the ministry in hosting the Train the Trainer workshop for business teachers. Feedback from the teachers who participated indicated that both workshops were informative, professionally executed by industry practitioners, and beneficial to the ongoing development of youth, our nation builders, who change the lives of our students for the world of work and real life. When approached by Mrs. McPhee to once again partner with the ministry, it was an easy sell, because from its inception in 1974, the Bahamas Institute of Financial Services, BIFS, partnered with the then College of the Bahamas to bring to the banking industry a course of study that would assist young Bahamians desirous of following a career path in the financial services sector. 45 years later, the financial services sector is reaping the rewards of highly skilled professionals in the workforce, many of whom are holders of BIF's diploma and, might I add, are returning to BIF's from time to time to participate in BIF's workshops, seminars, and specialized certification courses. This unique private-public partnership has served our industry, employers, and employees well. With that said, it gives me great pleasure to bring to this podium the president of BIF, Mr. Ryan Pinder. His bio, I believe, was included in your packages, I hope. Mr. Miguel did it. But for most of you, you know Mr. Pinder needs no formal introduction. Okay? And so I'm going to bring him to the podium, and he will tell you a little bit about the role he plays, not only in industry, but it's a very important part of the Bahamas Institute of Financial Services, recently being appointed as our president, but also in writing and teaching courses. So I'm sharing something that I believe he might say to you. I trust you will enjoy these 4 days of interactive sessions, and I extend appreciation and thanks to our industry associates who have agreed to take time from their busy schedule to partner with us in making presentations. I trust that you will have an enjoyable time with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are we doing this morning?
Great.
Fantastic, fantastic. I want to welcome all of you to this, what I envision, or especially on the agenda, is a very relevant seminar, 4 days of seminars, entitled Consumer Mathematics. But when I look at it, the curriculum here models very closely the theory and the principle of what we try to do at the Bahamas Institute of Financial Services. And you say, well, what do I mean by that? Well, one of the important elements of the Bahamas Institute of Financial Services, and when I was the Minister of Financial Services, I was a teacher at the Bahamas Institute. I designed curriculums at the Bahamas Institute in tax and corporate finance and others. But why did I do that? Because in the financial services industry, we wanted to make sure the Bahamas Institute kept pace with rapidly changing things in the industry. And our mandate is to ensure that our professionals are adequately trained, have exposure to and knowledge of the new areas of the industry they work in, because nothing stays the same. Nothing is static. And if you're static, if I'm static, we will fail. Things change too quickly. Now, modeling after what we do at the Bahamas Institute, I see our agenda today is right on point. We speak about responsible finances, responsible budgeting. We speak about what's going on in the world today, such as the WTO. We even speak about things such as fintech and cryptocurrency. And you say, well, what's the relevant to that? I'm a math teacher. Well, all of this is relevant to what you do. Not only is it relevant for what you do, it's relevant to how we train our young people in this country. To be exposed to what is changing, to be exposed to the new frontier, to prepare themselves at a young age, to be diligent and knowledgeable about where we are going, not only as a people, but as a country. And so I want to commend you for attending this seminar. I want to commend the Bahamas Institute for partnering with the Ministry of Education to design a curriculum and to design a training symposium that is relevant for today. I want to congratulate all of you, not only for taking this under yourself as knowledge in consumer mathematics for yourself, but for the children you're going to teach this year. I think we said September 2nd is the beginning of school year, is that right?
Yes.
Oh boy, here we go. It's right on the footsteps. Summer is over. And so, time to get hyped. I think we've already gotten our blood flowing this morning. So I want to personally welcome everybody. I want to welcome everybody and their enthusiastic participation. Continuing education is the fundamental element of professional development, us as professionals. And I see this as an element of continuing education for you as math teachers. I want to wish each and every one of you a successful school year this year. I want you to keep at it with our young people in this country. They are the foundation. I want to welcome you this week. I want to welcome you to this fantastic agenda put on by Kim and her team at the Bahamas Institute of Financial Services. And that, it's time to start. And we will start today with financial literacy and speak about responsible budgeting and responsible mortgages, and certainly Commonwealth Bank is in the back. I'm sure they're happy to help in that regard as well. Welcome, enjoy, learn a lot, and let's prepare the new frontier for the children of this country. Thank you very much.
Please give my president, my friend, and he used to say this, you know, when he was
When I was in another place.
He always used to embarrass me in seminars and say, that's my constituent right there.
That's right.
So I'm very pleased to have him as a part of our team. I'm going to get out of your way because I know you want to get into the agenda for the day. So it's my pleasure to bring to the podium our moderator for the day, Ms. Candia Hall. But before you come, give my president another rounding. Stay with us, because as you know, he is a very, very, very busy lawyer. So thank you again.
Thank you very much, and good morning again. It is a pleasure to be here, and I know that we are just a few minutes behind, and so we're going to kind of jump right into it. Coming up to us first with financial literacy is Mr. Kevin Demerit. He's the Senior Economist and External Relations Officer at the Central Bank of the Bahamas, and so let's give him a warm, warm welcome.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Before we begin, I do want to thank Ms. Pinder and Ms. Bodie and the entire Institute of Financial Services for the invitation. It's good to see you all, especially my older sister, Sharon Simonet. Well, I just saw her last weekend, but it's always good. So, we want to talk about financial literacy. This is something that we think we know a lot about. And to begin, when I began putting this together, I came across this excerpt from Arabian proverb. We are all familiar with it, but I thought it particularly appropriate for this particular grouping. It says, "He who knows not, and knows that he knows not, is a child." Teach it. Right? That's your responsibility. Certainly, it's each of our responsibility as individuals to provide guidance and directions for those who know not, but know that they know not. So, I want to begin, if I could, Mr. Pratt. I want to share with you a quick 30-second video that we shot, a couple of years ago, sort of when we started this financial literacy campaign that we're going to talk more about as we go along. If you can have...
Life is filled with choices. Every choice we make has a consequence. Whether big or small, financial choices have more lasting consequences than most. When we make sound financial choices, we improve our relationship with money and set ourselves up for financial success. Visit GetMoneySmartBahamas.com and learn how to get money smart today.
We shot that and a series of commercials like that over the last few years as part of our financial literacy campaign to get Bahamians more aware, more conscious of their financial situations and how they can improve it as they go along. And in fact, part of our campaign, and first of all, I do want to apologize. I had my hard copy presentation somehow didn't make it out of my office this morning. So I sort of, in fact, one of the big things we had done recently, we had this financial literacy fair that we were really advertising quite a bit at the Fusion Super Complex with partnering with the commercial banks, including our friend Commonwealth Bank in the back. Very well attended, but one of the things we found out is that a lot of people had a lot of questions. So, what do we want to talk about today? We want to talk about the ability to, we as teachers, and I count myself in that because I do teach. We empower the average Bahamian citizen to know more about financial products and services. Too often we think of it as just banking, and it's not just that. We do want to be able to better understand the current and evolving technology. And I tell you now, folks, the technology is evolving very rapidly. And we want to be able to arm ourselves with knowledge and skills to stand up for our rights as consumers. For us at the bank, it's very important because above all things, we think that Bahamians, not just in the Providence and Grand Bahama, should have the same access to financial services as everyone else. And for us, we believe that a financially literate Bahamian is the best form of consumer protection. You often hear people talk about complaints about this and complaints about that, and they go on social media, and 99% of the time they have no idea what they're talking about. And it's only when you're armed with this knowledge that you can make better decisions for you and your family. All right, quick background on myself, I'll go this very quickly so you know who is talking to you. I've been with the bank for at least 20 plus years. I was appointed as External Relations Officer and Senior Economist in August 2017, which means I'm essentially the Communications Director for the bank. Prior to joining the Governor's Office, I worked in research departments, an economic researcher, economist, and payments head. having a good time playing with my mathematical models. A Bachelor of Science degree in Math, Bachelor of Science degree in Economics, Masters in Economics, Masters in International Public Affairs, etc., etc., etc. I've lectured at the College of Commerce between 2000 and 2004 in almost every economic course that they offer, and I currently still lecture part-time at the Institute in both macroeconomics and microeconomics. Again, I have responsibility for managing the way the bank communicates with the rest of the world, whether it's through its website, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, etc. I'm also responsible about my office, that is, responsible for all the outreach and public relations activities, meetings, seminars, conferences, workshops, this sort of event. My office also manages the bank's philanthropic activities, and I'm the primary point of contact for all external domestic and international agencies, and most importantly, my task is to translate central bank in a language that is more accessible to everyone else. That is communicating the bank's policy and technical programs to the general public. It's one thing to have the education and the training in these very technical fields, but if you cannot communicate that to a point where people can understand what you're talking about, their eyes are going to glaze over and your whole message is going to be lost. So, I was appointed in August 2017, and one of the first things I did as head of the communications office is we commissioned a nationwide survey to see where Bahamians are in terms of financial literacy. Some of you may have gotten the survey, a call from the survey company, and they may have walked through the survey. I extracted a couple of comments from the survey. First was that though many Bahamians have access to basic financial products, they have shown limited understanding of such products and concepts. The survey also said Bahamians are challenged with making informed, long-term financial decisions and choosing products that match their needs. And the final excerpt I extracted, many ill-informed Bahamian households make less sound decisions on savings and borrowings and are less equipped to protect themselves against fraud and financial abuse. Now, that's what the survey says. I can translate that. It says two things. One, we found that Bahamians don't know as much as they think they know about financial products and services. And even the things that they don't know as well as they should. So, given that, the bank then commenced an ambitious campaign to enhance financial literacy and improve financial literacy in the Bahamas, which brings us here today. We started a financial literacy campaign. We created a financial literacy website called Get Money Smart Bahamas. We started producing commercials, talk shows, etc. The idea is to raise the understanding of Bahamians in terms of financial literacy. But why? Right. So what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about financial literacy in terms of the past, present, and future. And past, we're not talking about things that are gone. We're talking about policies and practices that have been implemented and remain relevant. In essence, we're talking about the kind of foundation stuff that we all should have before we can begin talking about anything else. Okay. Then we can talk about the kinds of things that are available today, some of which we may not be as familiar with as we could be and as we should be. And finally, we can talk about the future. And when we talk about the future, we're not talking 5 years from now, 10 years from now, way down the road, your children, grandchildren. No. We're talking about the immediate future, as in this year, next year, 18 months, 24 months at the latest. All right, so let's start with the past. We just said many Bahamians do not have a good understanding of their situation, but even more so, they don't have a good understanding of our economy. We asked any Bahamian, pillars of the Bahamian economy, they're going to say banking and tourism. And that's all they're going to say. Because what we found out is that we don't have a clear understanding of how that translates to real improvement in our lives beyond jobs. And unfortunately, we hear this even from our politicians. You hear whoever's in government at the time is going to talk about, oh, we got this new contract, so we have all these people working, and the opposition says y'all gave away the whole country to get these couple of jobs. And no one is taking the time to sit down and talk about what this means in terms of economic development and growth. Secondly, most Bahamians have absolutely no idea how exchange control balance of payments work to maintain our fixed exchange rate regime. We know that the Bahamian dollar is worth 1-to-1 to the US dollar. Right? And we accept that as an article of faith, alongside the fact that we're a Christian nation. Let me tell you something. The Bahamian economy is roughly $9 billion, give or take. All right. The US economy is $4.5 trillion, 50 times ours. But yet, we are arrogant enough to say our dollar is supposed to be worth the same as theirs. How do we manage that? Oh, we don't know. We don't really care. All we know is that's what it is. In our time, our parents' time, our grandparents' time, and it's supposed to be that way forever.
What if it don't?
So we don't understand what is involved in making sure that as a Bahamian, whenever you need US dollars for any activity, you can get US dollars. There used to be a time when you would find a taxi driver or straw vendor, you get them 1,000 Bahamian, they gave you 1,000 US, and that was it. All right. Then gets the point now where Bahamians used to be able to say, okay, I know I can go into the bank and I can get 1,000 US for it will cost me $5 plus whatever conversion that they attack onto it. Now, even now, more savvy Bahamians, with a debit card, you wait till you get to Miami or wherever, stick your debit card in the ATM machine and get your US dollars. The only restriction is if your bank put some limit on how much you can draw. We don't know, we don't care, all we know is it works. And that becomes a major concern because if something goes wrong, we don't know how to fix it. All we know would be to complain about it. So we need to establish within ourselves and within our community an understanding of how we got to where we are and how can we maintain the position that we're in. Because we're in an extremely fortunate position. If you have an opportunity to travel anywhere in the rest of the Caribbean, you know how fortunate we are in terms of our currency. Finally, again, we have just a vague understanding of things like gross domestic product, fiscal budgeting, that is budgeting for the country as a whole, and fiscal versus monetary policy. Fiscal policy, Ministry of Finance, how they raise money through taxes and how they spend our money. Monetary policy is all about central bank. What else do we not know? Many Bahamians also don't have a good understanding of how banking works. We equate financial services with just banking. And the fact of the matter is there's a whole slew of activities that are related to banking and related to financial services that we call the entire financial services sector. Certainly there are banks, credit unions, money transmission businesses. These are the Western Union type enterprises, accounting and auditing firms who try their very best to keep everything straight, law firms, insurance companies, and then there's the entire capital market that we think only supposed to be for rich people. Equities are shares, stocks and shares, fixed income are bonds, and collective investment vehicles are your mutual funds. Again, we complain about the fact that we can get 0.5% at most from our savings deposit, and yet we're unwilling to look around to see what other investment opportunities are out there and educate ourselves in what that can mean. Again, the problem that we found, and this came about through a survey, but also through the regular data that we collect from commercial banks, is that we have difficulty managing our personal and family finances. This is something I extracted from one of our reports. 90%, as of June 2018, I'm sure the numbers have not changed significantly since then, 90% of all savings accounts in this country have less than $5,000 in it. And in fact, I took the opportunity this morning to look at the data, and over 99% of all savings accounts in this country have less than $10,000. Now I know you can, $10,000 is a lot of money. Let me introduce you to a hurricane who tear off your roof, and then you tell me $10,000 is a lot of money. The idea behind savings is that it prepares us for things that may happen. Right? We establish good savings habit, even if it's a small amount on a regular, consistent basis, and you'd be surprised how it accumulates. Well, you wouldn't be surprised because you guys can do the math in terms of simple interest and compound interest, and you know how it can accumulate. Right? Again, we need to walk through too many of our people understanding basic budgeting practices. I'll share something with you. A budget is not something you do in your head. It is not something you plan after you get paid. A budget, you sit down and say, I know I'm going to get paid $4,000 this month. Right? And I'm sitting down with the
wrong crowd. No, that guy
and you know what your BEC or BPL bill was last month. So you can take account of that. You know what your cable is. You know what your cell phone is. And you write these things down. Right? And you put it up on your fridge. Right? And I'll tell you something else. Savings is not what's left over after you pay your bills. You budget for your savings the same way you budget for every other bill. The same way you budget for your tithe. I got paid $3,000 this month. This is for BEC, this is for BPL, this is for my tithe, this is for my savings. And you have it on the fridge, and you can work it with your kids. All right? Mark off where we are, mark off what we did. That's budgeting. Right? It's a process, and it's a consistent process, and it's something that we have to discipline ourselves to do on a consistent basis, on a monthly basis. Fixed deposits that we think for mostly rich people, investments, Bahamas government stock. Again, I've gotten a lot of calls from a lot of people about how this is supposed to be, I thought this was only for rich people. Bahamas government stock used to be called Bahamas government registered stock. It's a bond. In fact, it's a loan to the government. You get paid on your savings deposit 0.5%. Bahamas government stock pays at a minimum 4 3/4%, what we call prime rate. So at the very least, you get 4 3/4%. You can invest as little as $100. Now you can do $100 this month, $100 next month, $100 the month after. You don't need to invest thousands and thousands of dollars. All this means is all you need is, you need an application form, you can get it online, or you can walk into the central bank, follow the application form. You need a manager's check. We don't take cash in that kind of situation. Some kind of identification, passport will work, and a bank account. Because we pay interest on this twice a year, every 6 months, and the interest is credited directly to your account. You can cash this in whenever you want. You call up the bank, or you come in and say, this is my certificate, I want my money. Right? The bank will credit your account with whatever it is. It is that simple. And so instead of bemoaning the fact that I can't get, no more than this little piddly amount on my savings account from a bank, you decide to do something about it. And I put this one up here, and it hurt my heart. Yeah. Because it is too common in the Bahamas. The retirement planning, or should I say, lack of retirement planning. Now, it's different with you guys, because you guys have a pension. Right? But too many people, the vast majority of our population falls in the category, because people who cannot afford to stop working. They can't afford to retire. They cannot afford to not work. they end up working basically until they get too sick to work or they drop down dead on the job because they can't afford to retire. And you know, and I hope none of you fall in this category where you have in the back of your head that you can depend on your children for when you get old. Good luck with that. I don't care how devoted that child is and how much they love you, and you gave them everything you could possibly give them. They have their own life to live. Right? And you know, I don't care how adult they is, push come to shove, they come knocking on your door.
Yes.
And I'll tell you this much, don't depend on national insurance.
Come on.
We pay into national insurance every month, understand, but don't depend on national insurance as your sole retirement income. At the highest end, national insurance pays what? $700 a month, $750 a month. Try living off that. And lastly, and the most pathetic, is the good old cookout. Let me go on. And then two, and I put double two so we know, because you know, we're in Bahamians when we want to stress something, we double it up. Too many Bahamians do not understand and do not recognize the value of opening and maintaining a bank account that's established good savings habit. You teach your children and the children that you teach the idea that how do I establish a good habit for today and for tomorrow. The other big thing we found in service and something we've known for a very long time is that we don't manage our personal debt very well. We don't recognize how much debt is too much. Just because you can borrow doesn't mean you should borrow. The bank will lend you
All the time.
until you show them that you cannot pay back. Banks are in the business of lending money. That's their job. Right? It's your job to manage your finances, not theirs. So don't complain about a bank lending you money that you can't pay back. That's on you. Nobody put a gun to anybody's head in this country and says, take my money. Now, the central bank has recommended a 45% debt service ratio. In fact, we've imposed this on the banks. If you apply for a loan at the bank is going to sit with you and work out what your debt service ratio is, and if your current debt service ratio is approaching 45%, or above 45%, they're going to decline your application no matter how good it is. Central bank is very strict with this. It may go up to 55% if there is, say, a hurricane issue. You have some hurricane damage, we generally at that point allow the banks to loosen up to go up to 55%. Why? The fact of the matter is, when we say 45 to 55%, we're talking about your base salary being committed to paying a loan.
It's half your money.
So people are like, yeah, but that's only half my money. Right? But the fact of the matter is, this doesn't count the fact that you still get bills. Right? You still get school fee. You still get groceries. You still get everything else to live on. I can tell you about nightmare stories. This 45, 55% apparently doesn't apply for civil servants. I don't know if it applies to you guys where you guys fit within the Ministry of Education. Civil servants, up to recently, there was no limit. So we have had stories of people who they make $3,000 a month and they take home $300. Everything else, because everybody wants to offer government workers salary deduction.
That's the truth.
So how do you get yourself to the point where 90% of your salary is gone before it hits your bank? The other issue that we find is that when people looking at their personal finances and their debt situation, they only count a bank loan as a loan. Everything else we rationalize away in some other how. Credit card.
A loan.
That's a credit card. How is that a loan? But you're paying 18% on that.
Yes,
Big old 18%.
very high interest loans.
It's not 18%. It's 18% unless you decide to do something really stupid like get a cash advance on your credit card. You know what the bank does? All right. And I'll speak, even Commonwealth Bank can make noise in my head as much as they want. All right, because it's not just them, everybody does it. You get a cash advance, all right? The bank is going to charge you interest on the cash advance. Charge you a fee for getting the cash advance, and then charge 18% on the total on your credit card, including the cash advance. When you get in your head, somebody says something, you can just go into the ATM and get some money off your credit card. Turn around and slap them. They're talking foolishness. If you're in a credit union, I can't be alone because I was a member. We own a piece of the credit union, so it's like I owe money to myself, except that you got to pay it back. Furniture Plus, I just get in the TV. I mean, I don't see what the big deal is. I ain't changing my living room furniture. I don't know why y'all call it. Technically, that ain't really a loan.
Expensive.
Lot loan, car loan, and now car companies now are offering you unsecured. You can go there, they happen to give you up to $10,000. They say, bring your passport, your voter's card, your driver's license, or whatever it is. If you're civil servants, wonderful. We walk through the door ahead of everybody else. And why is it that when if we're in a fortunate position where we can actually get a loan from our company, usually it covers you across sometimes 1 month, sometimes 3 pay periods, depending on the company and their policy. We don't consider it a loan, but you got to pay it back. And they take the money out of your salary before you get the rest of your salary. And why, in heaven's sake, do we not consider ACE a loan? You know why we don't? Because we hope to get that first draw. And then y'all got to chase us from now until to make their rest of the payment. So, when we're talking about 45 to 55%, really, ideally, you want to take all of these things into account. Because that's going to give you an accurate picture of where you are. Again, these are all stuff that we're supposed to know as basic foundation elements in assessing our financial situation. We haven't even talked about what may come down the road yet. Things that are coming up, that is happening in our country now today that we can take advantage of. We're talking about online electronic banking services. So, banks are working very hard to keep you out of their branch.
They don't keep you from that teller no.
The banks will tell you straight and plain, I want to get to the day where I no longer have a teller. There are no teller lines. Tellers are expensive. All right? And banks have been trying very hard, sometimes dragging and kicking you all, screaming out of their branch. I think banks started and says, you know what, y'all used to come in here every Friday to cash a check. All right? Well, y'all can just deposit that check to account, but oh, no. Y'all so used to cashing your check every Friday. Guess what? I start charging y'all to cash this check. $5. Can they stop y'all? $10.
And they still cashing the check.
$15
And I keep until you all recognize that there are better ways of doing this. And so, if you are absolutely convinced that I have to cash this check, as opposed to waiting 24 hours to get the money if I deposit it to my account, then clearly you're happy to pay the $10, $15, $20, $30, $50, whatever they want to charge you. Either that or you are so stubborn you decide, you know what, sooner or later they can recognize the fact that I'm mad and they can go back. Right now, you can go online or at the ATM and do just about everything that you can do at the teller. I think, what's the bank, RBC has gone into what they call digital banking. And they want to do everything online. Money transfers, electronic money, mobile wallets, all these things are available now for us to become more efficient in our purchases of goods and services. Less reason to deal with the banks. And in fact, we have been striving very hard to license entities who are going to improve the way we purchase goods and services in this country. This became very important to us because if you've noted over the last few years, more and more banks have been closing branches in Family Islands. It's not that they don't like Family Islands or whatever, but they found that it's not worth it to them. The cost exceeds the benefit to them. They found that most Family Island branches, you know what the primary activity is? Teller services. Right? And in fact, listen, if we improve our ATMs, we reduce the number of branches, we can still serve these Family Island communities, or if so, then, they have to find some other way. Right. Recognizing this, Central Bank says, okay, we know there's going to be a withdrawal of bricks and mortar services from small communities. Right? How do we make sure that they still have access to the same thing as everyone else in the province of Grand Bahama? So one of the things that we did is that, okay, we are pushing banks to do electronic banking. We push banks push their customers. The idea is that we improve services to all Bahamians, not just in province of Grand Bahama. The other thing that we wanted to do in terms of improving the way we do things is that addressing some of the what we call non-bank and unbanked customers. There used to be a time, I don't know if you recall, where if you were a construction worker, Friday you got this little brown envelope with your money in it, and that was the way they did things. That is now gone by the wayside, and for good reason. It is inefficient, it is costly, and it has security issues. Right? But the result is, though, that we have the same type of individuals. They get a check for their company, and they go to the bank, they cash the check, and that's it. That's the only reason why they deal with the bank, the only reason why they have a bank account. If the money is deposited directly to the bank account, they go into the bank on Friday and withdraw the whole thing except just enough to keep the account open. They learn that because they found out very quickly if you don't leave a minimum of say $10 or whatever, the bank closes your account. Then you have to go through all the process of opening your account again. And your company finds that when they try to deposit your money to your account, the bank said the account closed. So they learn that. But again, they're really not involved in banking and financial services. They're not involved in making use of the kinds of services that are available through the financial service sector, because all they're doing really is cashing a check. So what we've been encouraging is that employers and banks work together to provide these people with a debit card. It's not a credit card, they're not fool, a debit card. That allows them, they can go to the ATM wherever they want and get money off their accounts. But what it does for these persons is that it gives them a stake in the economy. Because now for the first time, they can do things that only people with credit cards could do. Right? They can book an airline flight online. Right? They can check into a hotel with their card. All kinds of things that we take for granted with our credit cards, they can now do with their debit cards. It also means now that they realize the value of this card, so they keep more money on their account, so I can use the card for more things. Right? And that now begins to build a habit in persons in terms of accessing products and services through the financial services sector. Right? Now, they've also found, we found prior to 2018, if you want to open a bank account, anybody, you needed at least your passport, plus one other form of identification, your driver's license, NID smart card, voter's card, to be said identification. That's no longer the case for basic accounts. When you're talking about, you're trying to, run your investment portfolio through your bank account, that's a different story. But if you're using a basic savings account or a basic checking account, then really all you need is a current passport, not an out-of-date passport, a current passport. Right? That's it. Now, we still are working with the banks to make sure that they recognize this and they are, they bring this down to the people who are at the counter. Because they've been working all these years with, I need 2 pieces of identification. Now Central Bank changes, and we need to have these persons properly trained to understand that the process has changed. The other thing that we have a major concern with, move on, is our immigrant community. Haitians, Jamaicans, Cubans. Right? They have never been able to open a bank account because prior to 2018, the bank insisted that you have to prove that you are resident in the Bahamas legally to open a bank account. We reached out to Ministry of Immigration and the government, and we said, listen, we are not in the business of enforcing your immigration laws. That's not our role, that's not our function, it's not contained in our legislation. That's not the role of the banks. If you want to station an immigration officer in the banks, fine. Right? But that's not our job. Right. Our job is to safeguard the financial services sector in the Bahamas. And when we find ourselves in a situation that we found ourselves in, you know what happens? Criminals target immigrants. If you ever had cause to pass through any, what do we call these things? Shanty towns? Right. But shanty town sounds such a nice word. But usually it's little something on the side of the road. And you quite often you see somebody will pull up in a truck or their back trunk and they're selling things to the Asian community. So you have this underground economy. And they're always dealing in cash because they can't enter the banking system. Criminals may be fooled, but they ain't stupid. So I know I can stick up a Haitian or I can break into their house and I can find cash. Under the mattress, in a can in the backyard, in a mason jar, because they ain't got no choice. Now we're saying, and we're again working very hard with commercial banks to get past this hurdle, and we've had some very in-depth conversations, I'm going to say arguments with ministry personnel and immigration. If they can present a valid form of ID, a current passport from wherever it is, and they're only opening basic accounts, because for most of our immigrant community, they're only trying to send money back home, to support whomever. If this is just a basic account, fine. Now, there are some in the immigrant community who are trying to do things like, I'm going to start my own business where I will send money back on behalf of other people to Haiti or Jamaica or whatever. That's a different story. Yeah. And in a case like that, Central Bank is jumping down on you with 2 feet. Right? So, but the idea is that the benefit of this for us is that we eliminate, as far as possible, issues of money laundering. Right? We reduce crime against the immigrant community, and we try and preserve our relationship with international banks. Because if you have this underground economy, and by some estimates we're talking millions of dollars, because we have an immigrant population, you can talk to 50, 60,000 in the Bahamas at any one time. We're talking some good money. And international banks are seeing this unregulated money floating around in our economy. And says, if that's what we can see, imagine what we can't see. Right? So Central Bank is very concerned with that, and this is our effort to address things like that. Okay, that's what's happening presently. We've all heard of the credit bureau. The credit bureau is not a far-flung thing. It is not a government program where, what's that government? whenever we change government, stop something and then
Stop review, cancel.
there you go. Stop. This ain't that kind of party. This entity is regulated and supervised by the central bank. Governments come and go, central bank stays. And in fact, we are presently at this very minute in the process of licensing the entity that will run the credit bureau. With every expectation is that they will receive their license by the end of the summer, so we're talking September-ish. Once they've done that, then they will spend the next 18 months collecting data. And it's expected that they will issue the first credit report January 1st, 2021. That's not next year, that's the beginning of the following year. Now, again, I can spend an entire presentation on credit bureau alone, but we don't have that kind of time, so some of the highlights. The idea behind the credit bureau is that it will allow credit providers, lenders, not just banks, everybody involved who might provide credit, and to have a better knowledge of how we manage our money. It will promote healthy credit culture, and it will eliminate our incentive to overborrow because you will now know exactly what your situation is. All those bits and pieces that you weren't considering a loan, all those now are showing up in your credit report. You say, I didn't know, I didn't know. Data will be collected from banks, of course, credit unions, insurance companies, utilities, NIB, Bahamas Mortgage Corp. People always stutter when we bring up utilities. But the fact of the matter is, utilities are all credit issuing institutions. Because you get your power, well, when they're on, and then the following month, you pay for it. And in fact, they give you an additional 30 days before they say you are in arrears. So in essence, they've given you credit on your use of this facility. Same thing with every other utility. So of course, they're going to be very interested in knowing, how are you managing all your other finances, because that's going to tell us whether I can depend on you paying your bill on time on a regular basis. So data from all these entities will be compiled in a credit report, which will also include things like information to identify, John Roll from the other 50,000 John Rolls that we have in the Bahamas. And it will include a summary assessment that makes up a credit score. So you will have, your report may have like a credit score anywhere from 500 to 800 if you're using the US example as an example. And that may be a quick summary of, is this somebody we want to give further consideration to? And then they said, okay, I'll look at your full report and to see how this works out. Now, key here, nobody can get your credit report without your permission. Nobody. No bank, no insurance company, not your employer, not the government, except the court. The Supreme Court, not the Magistrate Court, the Supreme Court can order a copy of a report for their purposes, and we can discuss those in detail if we need to. Now, what's going to happen is that you want to apply for a loan from a bank. You fill out the application form, and the way the law is written, it has to be in big bold letters, maybe red, maybe black, big bold letters. It can be way buried on page 42 in fine print, where you agree to the bank getting a copy of your credit report. Part of the application process will be you give the bank permission to get a copy of your credit report. If you said, I don't think so, the bank will say, I appreciate you coming in, but we're really not in a position to be able to help you today. Translation, get the hell out of my office. Because clearly you must have got something to hide. Now, you can get a copy of your credit report every year. Do I have it here? Yes. You have the right to know what's in your credit report. Ain't no surprises. And you have a right to get one free every year. we haven't settled exactly how that's going to work yet, and that will be up to the credit bureau itself, but most likely it'll be something the way we do driver's license. So it'll be sort of on your birthday month, sort of thing. You get to see everything that's in your credit report, and you get to dispute anything in your credit report. You get to dispute the fact that, you know, your initials are R not T or something like that. You no longer live here, you live someplace else. Your phone number changed, whatever. Right? You also get to dispute more material information on your report. Somebody say that, you know, you were late in your BPL payment 3 times in the last year. You say, no, it's only 2.
That's
Only the summer we protested.
So there's a dispute resolution mechanism. Here's the thing. Let me go back a second. I'll come to the second. So you apply to a bank for a loan. You give permission for them to get a copy of your credit report. They get it and they decline your application. Obviously, you will know why. And they indicate to you that it's because of issues on your credit report. Now, you know you just got your credit report 2 months ago and it seemed fine to you. So you want to know what changed in the last 2 months. You have a right at that point to petition the credit bureau, not the bank, to petition the credit bureau for a copy of this report to see what was on this report that caused the bank to decline your application. That is free as well. So you have an opportunity now to make changes to any corrections in your credit report. You get opportunity to get a free credit report once a year, and you get an opportunity to get a free credit report if your loan application is declined because of something on your credit report. Also, if you make a correction to your credit report, so you write to the credit bureau and you say, listen, something screwy on my credit report, this is wrong. They have to get back to you within 5 days. Say, okay, we see what you're talking about, we can see what we can do about it. They then have another 5 days, when we talk 5, we talk 5 working days, we talk a week, to make that correction. Then you get a new credit report free to show that that correction was made. So there ain't gonna be no surprises around here unless you want there to be a surprise. All right. Kind of things that's gonna be on your credit report. Certainly the bad stuff. Late payments. Your payment is due on the 29th. You made that payment on the 30th. It's late. It's late. But it's late. I deposit in the bank, but they take a day to get late. You know when your payment due. You make appropriate arrangements to make sure that is on time. My payment was only late twice last year, but it was late. It shows a pattern of questionable ability to manage your finances. Arrears. Your payment is late up until it's been 30 days due. 31 days, it's now in arrears. That is a very different category from a late payment. A late payment is oops. An arrears is there's a problem. Defaults, outstanding adverse court judgment. Interesting thing about Bahamians, we don't pay traffic fines. We don't. We wait until the police show up on our job and say we have to be in court because a warrant has been issued for our arrest. That's when we pay it. By that time, there has been a legal process has already taken place and the judge has already ruled against you, or the magistrate. So at that time, there is no disputing whether the fine is accurate or not. Because the fine will say you have 30 days to either pay it or dispute it. After that, the court says, oh, you only show up, this is a court date, you must be guilty. show up on your credit report. Bankruptcies, the government is currently very deep into sorting out our bankruptcy laws. You probably hear it soon enough, and that has nothing to do with the New York Central Bank, so I'll move on. Debt write-offs, again, this is an issue where you haven't paid, all right, because you had a mortgage and whatever happened and things break down, you couldn't pay your mortgage. And you've been back and forth with the bank, but you just wasn't in a position to pay. You went from late to arrears. After 3 months, you are technically in default. And you stop paying, you never pay, and the bank sends you all kinds of nasty letters, but you stay in the house. And as far as you're concerned, until somebody kicks you out.
Right.
And eventually, 7 years go by and nothing happens. You think you're free and clear.
Yeah.
And on the bank's books, it is written off that loan. So what the bank does it says, I will set aside money, what we call provisions, for the possibility of a debt going bad. And the more likely it is, the more money I set aside. So eventually, I realized that this person is never going to pay back, so I write up that loan. So in essence, I clear that off my books. But I still have a collection agency. And they're still in the business of trying to collect that loan eventually, if it means eventually taking you to court. And any money I collect after that goes into my profit. But the bank is never going to say you're free and clear. You borrow from money from us, you owe us. And it's going to show up on your credit report. There's also positive stuff that's going to show up on your report as well. That's going to show that you're managing your finances. Now, yes. One thing we have to stick in here at the end is that negative data, bad information on your credit report will only last for 5 years. So that you are not stuck with some issue you screwed up with for the rest of your life. Now, all negative data is not going to fall off at the same time. It's 5 years from the date of that negative information. So let's say you were late with your cable payment, I don't know, this is what, August 2019. All right, so give the people a year, August 2020. So you were late, it shows up in your credit report as a late payment. You were also late December 2020, late payment. 5 years from now, 2025, both of them ain't gonna fall off. The August payment will fall off in August 2025. The December, it's not gonna fall off until December 2025. So each one will fall off after 5 years. I have to put this here, because this is, I want to say a cultural thing, but I'm not sure if this applies to everybody everywhere in the world. Our bill paying practices. We almost never pay the full amount. We're chronically late because we think, I don't see what the big deal is, it's only a couple of days. Or we wait until they actually turn off our service before we pay. But there's a reason why we do this, And it's not because we're bad people. It's that we're trying to stretch our salary too far. Right? Our salary is only X. Y'all laugh when I say 4,000. But you're trying to make that $3,000 salary do $5,000 worth of activity. Right? So, okay, I pay just enough to keep this on, just enough to keep this going, just enough to do this, and just enough to do that. And let something go wrong. That is now going to become very apparent to you, and anytime you're interested in getting a loan from anybody, or getting an insurance product, or anything else related to the financial services sector. This will also be applied, maybe not to you guys, but if you were renting, right? You were looking for an apartment or a condo or something, and the apartment owner will have a right, with your permission, to get a copy of your credit report. Now, it's not going to be your full report, not every last detail, because there's going to be different versions of the report for different institutions and entities. but it will show that person how you have been paying your bills. Because that's going to tell them whether or not this person is going to be paying my rent on time, or I always got to be chasing them. So, Credit Bureau, January 2021. They're going to be licensed probably by September of this year, late September at the most, but January 2021, you probably can see the first credit reports. This is right around the corner. What else can we see happening right around the corner? The digital Bahamian dollar. You may or may not have heard of Project Sand Dollar. And some people have gotten in their head that that means we're doing some cryptocurrency. That's not what this is. This is just a digital version of our regular Bahamian dollar. Right? Again, we expect to be issuing this 2021, early 2021. This will do exactly the same thing as your paper money is doing now, except better. Everything you can do when you stick your hand in your wallet or your pocketbook, you will be able to do the same thing. Everybody, Central Bank will be managing what is called a digital wallet system. Everybody, Bahamian or resident, not just Bahamian, will be able to get a digital wallet. And it may be in the form of an app on your phone, or if you're more comfortable with a plastic credit card, debit card type thing. And every business, and we fully expect every business to be signed up for this, will have a digital reader. Particularly small businesses, but large businesses as well. For small businesses, it's going to be particularly important because now they said, I no longer have to deal with cash, the paper stuff. Right? I don't have to worry about pilfering from my cash register. Right? I don't have to worry about somebody coming to my store and sticking a gun in my people's face. I don't have to worry about making deposits at the bank. I don't have to worry about going there at night and, whatever. Because what happens now is that there's no need for approval or verification. This is not like a debit card or credit card. This is not something that you have to go check with the bank to see if this person got money. The fact of the matter is, when you open your pocketbook and you look and you see, do I get money for this? The way we expect this to work in the game, there's still some issues in terms of making sure the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. You have your phone, tap to the reader, green, okay, payment gone. Red, But I know I had some money in this wallet somewhere. I know I had some money on my phone somewhere. Exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. Right? The only difference is that if you have kids, and parents will always worry about this, you leave your purse down somewhere, you're a teenager, somehow if you ain't gonna notice that they take $5 out. Digital wallet, password protected, PIN number. If you choose to give it out to your kids, that's on you. Now, we've already started the pilot program in Exuma. We wanted Exuma because Exuma was small enough that we can give the readers to everybody and a wallet to all the residents and businesses. And it's diverse enough in terms of the businesses and residents on Exuma that it gives us a representative sample of what's going to happen when we go through the entire country. Believe me, the Exumans are very excited because for one of the few times that we're leading the country. And they're very tall with the fact that, listen, we're never going to give this up. And we haven't even started this yet. But the digital wallets also allow things that you can do with your paper cash. You can borrow from people, give me one slow 20 or slow 50. Same way, where we send minutes to each other. My digital wallet to your digital wallet, you don't get no money back. Borrow, lend, transfer between digital wallets, same as you would do with paper cash. Interesting point here. You won't need a bank account to operate a digital wallet. In fact, if you want, your employer can credit your salary directly to your digital wallet, and you don't ever have to deal with a bank. Right? If that's what you want. Now, the problem will be if you want to use your digital wallet to make online purchases, especially if you're doing it outside the country. you need to connect it to the bank to do the foreign currency conversion. Because in essence, you're buying US cash. That's the only time you necessarily need to connect your digital wallet to a bank account. The other possibility, and I know this is going to happen with people until they get used to it, they're going to want to connect the digital wallet to bank account because at some point you say, okay, I want to make sure that I can get cash off my digital wallet, paper money off my digital wallet. Right? But we expect that's going to be a transition, and eventually it's going to get to the point where more and more persons, especially as we get more sophisticated, is going to ignore the paper money altogether. Right? And people start giving you paper money, you look at them like, seriously? So what else? Lastly, we're getting rid of the 1 cent piece. Yeah, I know. We all love it until we got to use it. Until we get paid in it. The penny is lost its utility. We don't use it anymore. We're more likely to throw it away than use. Every house here has a penny stashed someplace. I know, mine's is in a Pringles container, and then I add another Pringles container, now I'm up to like 4 Pringles containers. And in fact, right now it costs us being the bank, it costs us more to produce and distribute pennies than what they're worth. And inflation, as prices rise, the value of money declines. Inflation's always eliminated the value of a penny. And despite the fact that we are afraid to change, we're all attached to this and the thing, once it has payment on it, we're getting rid of it. How's this going to happen? Beginning January next year, the central bank will cease issuing 1 cent coins to the banks. And the banks will cease issuing 1 cent coins to customers and businesses. So whatever's out there, that's it. All right. Beginning January 2020. Now, important to note, for all cash, once we get rid of the penny, obviously we still see prices going to be in these odd amounts. For all cash transactions only, prices will be rounded to the nearest 5 cents. So $1.01 and $1.02 will be rounded down to $1, $1.03 and $1.04 will be rounded up to $1.05. Sorry?
Let's round up. Let's round up.
And this does not apply to just math. All of us can count from 1 to 5. You see that price is $1.02, and he can try around at $1.05, and you just let it go. So it ain't a question of they can round it up. You gonna let them round it up? When you know $1, $1, $2, you round down to $1. This is only for cash transactions. Again, once you start using your digital wallet, once you start paying credit card, debit card, money transfer, whatever, none of this applies to any of that. Again, one of the benefits of this is this will encourage people to use non-cash transactions. So, during next year, 2020, we will work with the general public, commercial bank, charter organizations to collect and redeem pennies. So you have a whole year to redeem your pennies. You don't do enough of it anyway, so you'll give them to a charity or something. You'll have people outside, food stores or whatever have you. I'm sure some Asian Army would love to take your pennies. Now, January 1st, 2021. You had a year to redeem these stuff. It will no longer be accepted as legal tender, which means you can't use it to pay for anything anymore. January 21st, 2021. But since we know behaviors are behaviors, we can give you all a short transition period even after that. Where make it clear, I use the word recalcitrant, but you know, like stubborn. And an angel old people. Because we insist that ain't nothing gonna happen because somehow things will work in our favor regardless. And you know, I ain't turning my pennies because I've been holding these pennies. I had this job since forever, whatever. Fine, then hold on to your pennies. And then when you find, okay, I finally want to roll these and we know what's coming immediately. So there is no question of I didn't know. The credit bureau is going to be here. And in fact, one of the things I should have mentioned credit bureau is that we all have some skeletons in our past. Now, what the credit bureau will do is allow all of us to start fresh.
Really?
Yes. That loan that you defaulted on 5 years ago, that ain't coming back on. Now, here's the thing. So we have an opportunity between now and the time they start issuing credit reports to clean up our act. Here's the kicker. The credit bureau had the right to begin collecting information on you from the date that the legislation was passed. Legislation was passed in February 2018. So from February 2018 up to the time they issued the first credit report, January 2021. Anything happened before February 2018, don't count.
All right.
Sorry? No, you have to do over. I say I wiped the slate clean up to 2018. So now, okay, so you say, okay, I only know now. But now you can put a full year, maybe full 18 months of payments on time, every time, in full. Now, when your credit report, it shows something from March 2018, you can look at that's March 2018. Yeah, look at 2019, look at 2020. Don't be calling for 2018 to be no more.
I clean up my app.
Exactly. So, here's the issue. It's clear that we as individuals and collectively as a young, growing and ambitious nation, we have expectations of being in the forefront of economic growth and development. Then we need to be financially literate, consciously and deliberately aware of the urgent need to keep pace and when necessary, take the lead in fixing our own house. That's where we need to be. So, I'll take any questions you may have. I don't know how much time we have, Ms. Bodie. No, I don't have all, we don't have all day.
5 minutes.
That's one question. One question.
Sorry, that's
You mentioned that the credit bureau would have all of your information. So automatically, these BPL, the banks will release your personal information to the credit bureau?
Okay. Right. So the Credit Bureau Act, it's actually called the Credit Reporting Act of 2018, says that there are certain entities that are mandated to provide information to the Credit Bureau. These are the people who are licensed by the central bank. These are banks, credit unions, money transmission businesses, and retail payment service providers. It's sort of the new sort of Google Pay, Apple Pay kind of people that we have starting business now. They are mandated by law to provide information to the central bank, to the credit bureau. Then we have entities that we have what's called a reciprocal arrangement, where if you want a credit report, you're going to provide information. These are the utilities. Also, any entity that the central bank has designated as a responding entity, which pretty much covers all your people like your car companies and furniture companies. So they will provide information to the credit bureau, and the credit bureau will have your credit report, will create a credit report. Nobody can see that until you get permission.
Disclosure.
Yes.
Automatically disclose it
To the credit bureau. Now, the issue is, Scotiabank sends some information, RBC sends some information, but nobody gets to see anything until you say so. Sorry.
I just wanted to know whether the Bureau has a credit rating scale, would there be a scale?
This is where the credit score comes in.
Okay, absolutely.
And we expect, it probably won't be identical to what the US has, but certainly the credit bureau will be able to tell you. So here's a score anywhere from 200 to say 800. Now, and that's all the credit bureau will say. All right? I mean, in addition to the full credit report. The bank or whoever's issuing credit will have to make their own decision in terms of what score they think is a good customer, as opposed to what scores a marginal customer scores a poor customer. And that will vary from bank to bank. Yes, sir.
Now, the thing for, you just made a thing now where people actually breaking your PIN. So that means that when I go on my e-wallet, everything is cleaned up from somebody who is in Nigeria. So, what kind of fraud protection are you going to provide for the consumer? Are we insured nationally, or is this something that if you lose it, that's you?
Okay, two things. The whole data protection mechanism. Certainly, because the digital wallet system is operating controlled by the central bank. So this is not an individual bank system. So any changes to your digital wallet will flow through the central bank system. So we'll be able to identify a pattern of changes. So let's say we see you get your salary comes in every month, 5,000, big guy.
Sticking by faith.
And we can see you spend $300 or $350 every month goes to BPL, we see this goes to that, goes to that. And all of a sudden we see 4,000 flow out. Somebody's going to give you a call. We also says, listen, just like how you should do with your bank account now, you change your PIN periodically. But with your digital wallet, your wallet has two protections. It has a PIN and a password. So it says, okay, somebody needs to be able to access my phone to begin with. Then they need to come up with a PIN and a password for my digital wallet. If they can get through all three of those, then they can rob the whole country blind. But you have to do your part too. You can't, because you're being lazy, you can give your child the access to go do some transaction on your behalf.
But the thing is, that's happening now with major U.S. corporations where the data banks are being infiltrated,
So,
and
I know
all information
you're
service.
asking for 100% guaranteed protection.
I mean, for me.
We all can talk about that. You have every right to complain if something happened and you can see that, listen, I did my part. All right? And y'all didn't put in the right protection that's needed, then you have a recourse. All right? And say, listen, y'all need to give my money back, plus something for my trouble. But you got to do your part too. All right. Yes, sir.
You did mention that with credit cards there is a due date, and if you pay after that day, you are late.
Yes.
The credit cards have that day fixed. I asked them if they can change it. They say no. The government pays civil servants 2 days before the end of the month. So that basically means
You're late all the time.
that correct.
No, what? That does not mean you're late all the time.
Yes, it
It
does.
said you wait for the last minute to pay.
Yeah,
Then-
pay at least 1 month.
And then take it back.
I'm sorry. Please continue.
So that being the case, that would mean that you would have to have surplus money in your bank account in order to be regular.
Use the gas.
How can that be so practical for the ordinary civil servant who is not a business person?
Actually, I think this is where we want to continue to talk about good banking practices, good savings habits. We should never get to a point where at the end of the month we have zero money left on our accounts. I know it's hard. It's hard for anybody, no matter how much you're making. But that's where you talk about planning your budget. you know, okay, so you know your situation. You know your credit card payment and your salary don't match up. So, how do you address this? You say the banks are not going to change their payment date, and certainly Ministry of Education is not going to change your salary date. So then the only possible adjustment has to be you. You have to decide, okay, I know I could need the money, but I'm going to put this $200, I'm going to leave this here to make sure that my credit card payment is made on time. Because the consequence is such that you end up, right now, there are no consequences to us for late payment. Now, all of a sudden now you see where somebody's going to be able to point to every single late payment you made for the last 5 years. All right? And when you put all these things together, it can look bad. And it can look bad to you, and so if it look bad to you, you know it can look bad to somebody when you're trying to, I want to say beg for money, but really, you know. The flip side of this is that you have a good credit report. That is, you've done good habits. You're now in a position where you can negotiate with the bank as opposed to taking whatever they're offering. You can walk into a bank confident that there is nothing here that's going to surprise me. You can plop down in that lady's chair and metaphorically put your foot up on the desk. But you know what you're saying. I know my situation. I know you need me more than I need you. And if you don't want to give me that kind of money, and we can talk about interest rates, because that interest rate you're offering, that ain't work for me. And now I know, fine, I can go another bank. Because all of them got my credit report, all of them to see, I good. That's going to be the difference. Instead of you going there with your hand out, hoping and praying, and that you spend the next couple of days, did I get a loan? Did I get a loan? No, you know our situation. And if they don't want to deal with you, I get 7 other banks. They can be happy. I ain't even talking with credit unions or whoever else. Because I know I carry in gold. Sure. Let me get Ms. Bode before.
Oh, somebody before me?
Sorry.
No?
No, I still back to the same point. What benefit is it to the bank or whoever is to benefit from that, from getting a payment right on time rather than 2 or 3 days later? Now, the bank has a period of time where you can pay that money without incurring a late fee. But why would it become a problem to somebody because they paid that money 2 days later?
The late payment itself is not really a problem for the bank, because the bank is going to charge you interest on the late payment. So the late payment itself is not an issue for the bank. What it says to the bank about you. It says, can I really trust this person to service the loan as we agreed? This person agreed that the payment date is X. The fact that they letting it drift a day or 2 days, that's because they don't really care as much as they want to about our relationship. And if that's the case, do I really want to continue this relationship with them or expand it when they come back with something more?
What I'm expecting here is a protection for the government, because in their system, they pay me 2 days before the end of the month. So I expect the government to say, hey, okay, banks, your due date for the payment of credit cards should be a day or 2 after the end of the month and not anywhere else.
Okay,
That's not fair.
2 things here. First of all, government ain't got nothing to do with that. That's purely central bank. And central bank is not going to change it like that. We understand and accept that, once you establish a certain relationship with the bank's going to live up to its end, you have to live up to your end. If that is going to be a problem, then you terminate the relationship. You give them back their card, give them back their card. Because you do not have to live with what they insist. You don't owe them your business. But if you enter in a relationship with them, you're expected to live up to the terms and conditions of that relationship. Okay, can you get one more?
Good morning, all. Can you comment on institutions such as Western Union, and I think there's SunCash? Can they use digital wallet, your digital wallet, when it becomes available?
Yes, but only in the case where the digital wallet is attached to a bank account. Well, two things. If you're talking about, it says SunCash, you're doing transfers within the Bahamas.
Yeah, well, outside too, right?
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. But you know, we used to use our gaming account to do transfers until the central bank made it clear. No.
Okay, that's
All right. So, but now the gaming operations have established transfer companies to do the same business, same offices, but separate companies. All right. So you can use your digital wallet for that, even if you don't have a bank account. But if you're doing money transmission businesses outside the Bahamas, then you need your digital wallet. It has to be attached to a bank account. But yes, you can use your digital wallet. You should be able to use your digital wallet for any form of payment for good or service in the Bahamas.
Thank you very much. Mr. Demaret, thank you very much. We're gonna have one last, we can take us from break time, okay? Thank you. We want to say thank you very much for all of the information that you shared. It was, a lot to take in, and it gave us a lot to think about. We're excited about the digital wallet, and we will try to be in the 1% with more than 10,000.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Didn't you enjoy that session?
Sure, I'm going to need my thingy.
And we are right on past break time, and so we're going to get ready for our break. But before we do that, we want to say a special thank you to our sponsors that are here, and we want to give them a round of applause. And we have the
I already have a separate presentation.
Commonwealth Bank as well. Sunshine Insurance. And the National Training Agency. Special thank you to all of them for partnering with the IFS and bringing us together here today. We want to ask the members and the lecturers of this, if you are here to stand and give us a little wave, a little hello, if you can just tell us your name and your position at the company.
Yes, I'm Lossinger. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you all for coming. My name is Jane Gibson. I'm the Education Chairperson at the Bahamas Institute of Financial Services. I'm also a proud alumni of the Institute, and I always was excited to give back for what the Institute has given me.
Good morning, all. My name is Bernadette Gibson. I'm also a member of the Educational Committee at BIFS, and I'm the Manager of Human Resources at the Securities Commission of the Bahamas.
The lady at the back, Pedro.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'm Pedro Delaney. I'm not part of the Education Committee, but I do provide a part-time lecture in the taxation course for BIFS.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you again for your patience. Now, break. It's going to be 10 lovely minutes right across the hall, and I would really appreciate it if we could just one at a time so that we can proceed. This fellow from this institution. She was actively involved with BIFS for over 20 years. Mrs. Gibson is also a member of the Society of Trust and Estate Practitioners. And so let's give a warm welcome to Mrs. Jane
Gibson. Good morning, everybody. And it is my pleasure to be here because this has always been a passion of mine. And every opportunity that I have with family, friends, my church, and even total strangers. Not after this session, you won't be strangers. We won't be strangers. to share the importance of budgeting. And like I always start by telling everybody, it's not how much you make, but what you do with what you make. And I've been in the financial industry for over 30 plus years, but I didn't start there. My first job was at Williams Electric, making $60 a week, and that's 5.5 days.
Wow.
But back then, you know, you may say, oh, that wasn't much money, but it still did a lot. Back then, for that making $60, and that's, of course, national insurance was still in place, so they had to take out national insurance for that. I was able to pay for my typing, my driver's license, and money for bus. Again, it's not how much you make, but it's what you do with what you make. Okay, so that's what we're going to go with. And a lot of times people will say, budget, budget, budget. But you don't get a chance for them to walk you through how to do it. And for example, you have $100 in your pocket, $100 in your purse. And you start out with that in the morning, and by midday or by the end of the day, you're left with $2. And you said, but I was sure I had $100 in my wallet. By the time the $10 go for breakfast, the children want another $20 between them for lunch, another $10 for phone card, then lunch comes up, and then someone wants to borrow a slow 20. And before you know it, that $100 which you thought was big money in your wallet, and you can't remember. Everything happens so quickly. You keep dipping in, before you know it, you're down to $2 and you're wondering what's going on. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to make it a bit interactive. Everybody should find in their seat this sheet of paper. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, now, the most important thing is to know what your income is and your total income, because sometimes you have, and again, it's not only for, you can say, oh, forget about teaching this to my kids, they don't work, they don't have any income coming in, but they do. So this budget format can work for adults and children, and you need to start teaching your children from an early age how to manage money. It doesn't automatically happen. It has to be taught and learned and practiced. Okay, so for an individual, they may have income coming in from salary, from a pension, from rental income, from bonus, and in the form of the kids, they may have income coming in from allowance, grandparents, aunts, godparents give them cash, money. They can start with a piggy bank. I started my daughter off with a piggy bank, and anytime she finds those same pennies and loose change around the house, it was dropped into the piggy bank, and before you know it, when the piggy bank got full, sometimes the piggy bank held up to $100, $150 just in coins, and then we would deposit it on her account. So again, you want to first determine what is your income. Now, the second part to the budget that I would recommend, I call it the investment part. And the first thing on the investment side, I have tithes, 1/10 of income. And a lot of people say, oh, I'm not religious, I don't go to church, I don't believe in giving 1/10. But this is a biblical principle that works across the board. Yes, yes it does. Yes it does. You know, you don't have to be of any particular denomination. this Bible principle works. You give your 1/10 of your income, but you say, oh, well, I'm only making X amount. This is such a small amount. I'm taking 1/10 out of this. How am I going to manage with all these other list of expenses that I have? But it's a Bible principle that works, that once you give that 1/10, everything else would fall in line. And I've proven that. Okay, now savings. Again, like the previous speakers say, you don't wait until you cover all of your expenses and then say, oh gosh, what's left? $5, okay, I'm gonna throw out the savings. Savings should be intentional.
Should be available.
And it should, exactly, it should be treated as an expense. That means come hell or high water, every month that amount should be saved. And it is recommended 30% of your salary should go towards saving. And everybody says, oh my gosh, that's a big chunk, that's a lot. But start off where you can, but make it consistent. If you decide I'm gonna save $100 a month, if you can't make the 30%, the ideal 30%, start off with 100, start off with where you can, but start and be consistent with that. And that's why it appears right under tithes. That means before all the expenses kick in, you want to have your savings in place. And then we're looking at the expenses. Now, with the first, with this side of the report, this is what you want to do. For the whole year, and then you can break it down month by month, but for the whole year, you list all of your expenses. Your credit cards, your loans, your mortgages, your school fees, groceries, electricity, bank loans. You want to know what expenses you have, and you want to list all of them. So that when you move to this side of the page, okay, so when you move to this side of the page, you can allocate what expenses would be due in January, what expenses would be due in February, because sometimes you have those annual ones, those annual insurances, the school fees, you know, what time they're due. But you want to be aware of what your expenses are and again the income that's coming in. Now this is a sample of a budget plan on a salary that's at $1,500.
That's a week.
Now, that's a week. No, this is just a rough drafting of a month's salary.
That's us.
No, this is a month.
How many you?
Not the week.
That's us.
Now, the thing of it is, when you're dealing with this side, you want to list the due dates as well. When these expenses are due. Not the, we know the electricity, the water, cable, we know the phone, they come monthly. But you have some expenses that come during a particular time, month of the year. So you want to be aware so that you can be able to say, okay, every June, I know I have the car insurance to pay. I know I have the car licensing on my birth month. Okay, so you want to be aware of all of your expenses and the income. Now, ideally, if your income is $1,500, your expenses can't total or should not total $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. That means there's some adjustments that has to be made with the expenses. Okay. Now, again, like I said, this is just a rough estimate. Well, you see how the money gets used up. Because you said, oh gosh, I started off at $1,500, this sounds like a lot of money, but by the time you allocate all the expenses, you realize, oh my gosh, everything's, now again, that's a good point you just raised. She said, what about vacation? And parties.
And rent.
Now listen,
Rent and all that.
we're gonna get to the next section. Some budgeting tips. Some budgeting tips. We're gonna get to that. Now, we saw all the expenses that we had, and the money was used up. If all those expenses aren't met, that vacation has to go on hold. That party has to go on hold.
Not the bills. Not the bill on hold.
Not the savings, not the bills. Unless you find another way to generate more income to accommodate that party and those other special activities that you want, they would have to go on hold. Okay, and budgeting, the gentleman asked, he raised a very good question. And he said, all of my bills, all of my expenses are due at a certain date, but my salary comes after those due dates. And again, this is where the savings would help you keep ahead of what's going on until you get everything balanced out. And it's good to be aware when those due dates are, when those payments come up, and to make sure money is available to accommodate that. Now, okay, budgeting tips. Like we said, we're going to list all of our income and expenses for the year so that we know where we are, what our area of movement is. Then we're going to prepare the budget for each month, ensuring that money is allocated to cover the important expenses and investments. Now, sometimes you have things that seem urgent, like she said, the party. All my friends are going to this party, I've got to go to this party. Now, that may seem like an urgent situation for her, but urgent should not take the place of importance. Because you go to the party, have a good time, and when you come home,
They're still left.
there's no electricity.
That's true.
There's no phone bill paid. There's no water bill paid. The water gets cut off. The electricity, well, you know that goes off automatically without you. You want to add to that. I'm going to go in on. Add to that being cut off. But you had a fabulous time at the party. You go over to Westgate, you go to New York, you go shopping, have a good time on that trip, and then when you come back, there is no school fee available for the child to be paid. The child has to sit down and be embarrassed. But you still have to provide books, uniform. So you want to but the reality is you have to determine what's important, not what appears to be urgent. Because like that party, they pull up by you come on, let's go. We have this hot party going on. Of course, you need to get your nails done. You need to get your hair done. There's nothing in the budget to cover those things because of course, you need a new outfit and the matching shoes and everything to go with it. But that may seem urgent, but is it important compared to the other expenses that you need to survive with? And then when you look, you do all of that, then you jump in the car and the car's on E. You spend the gas money to get you where you need to go. Okay, so again, you want to be aware of what's going on with these, okay. Expenses, so therefore the expenses should not exceed the income. You know you're just in a certain bracket of income, and unless you're going to be creative with some of your talents to create more income, this is what we're working, the range we're working with. Okay, another tip too. Now some people may be paying a car loan. the card loan gets paid off, and they say all of a sudden, oh, I have all this free money to party. You've been doing without that money for all those months, and you've been balancing everything. Transfer that over to savings to increase the savings, especially if you're working towards
A bigger goal.
a house or putting your child through university. This is where the savings funds come in. Or if that emergency that our previous speaker spoke about, hurricane comes and all of a sudden your roof is gone. You've been paying insurance, but they said you need to come up with a deductible before you can get access to it. This is where the saving comes in for the unpredictable emergencies. Okay, and like I started to say, tithes is 1/10 of your income and should be taken out of your income or salary first. And trust me, that would work in your favor. Okay, review your expenses and determine what are important needs and what are wants. Eliminate the wants. So, that cruise, that family cruise that everybody's going on. Now, she said, you think I'm going to be left? Now, if you don't want to be left behind,
was given 3 for 1.
okay, now, if you don't want to be left behind from that cruise, you're going to have to plan in advance.
Yes, you can plan.
That $10 lunch you were having, you're going to have to bring lunch from home. Okay? That new dress that you've been eyeing in one of the stores, you're going to have to leave that in the store and put that money towards that cruise that you want to go on. You need to have a balancing act, again, with what is a need and what is a want. Because after you take your money, make somebody else rich, make the cruise line rich, you come home to reality and the important expenses are not covered. So you would always be focused on what the needs are. And then we'll deal with the wants or eliminate them. Okay. And the most important thing is it's important to have all of this information written down. People say, oh, I have it in my head. And then when something exciting comes up, all of that disappears. You're just focusing on what suddenly appeared to be important. Okay, so you want to have that written down so you can keep referring back. Can I accommodate this new expense that's presenting itself to me compared to all the other expenses that I have already existing? Okay. Savings should be included in the budget and should be treated as an expense. The money should be saved each month the same way utility bills are required to be paid each month. Saving a little at a time based on the total income would build and grow the savings account. It is never too late to start saving. So that $10,000 that the previous speaker was talking about that a lot of people fail to meet, you start a little at a time and then you can watch that grow. Okay. Now, if you suddenly find out your rich relative died, left you all these thousands and millions of dollars, you have some excess money, okay, excess money, or the insurance finally came through on your spouse who died, you know. If you, again, you don't want to go splurging it on the latest BMW or Mercedes, we have some options of investment. Okay, excess money after all your expenses are covered should be invested. Some investment options are as follows. You have the fixed deposits, the shares in a company, government registered stocks or bonds, pension plan, land, house, and insurance. Okay, so these are some. If you suddenly decide to run into that excess money, it can happen. But you want to be prepared in terms of how to deal with it. Okay, before we move on to the second part, does anybody have any questions on the budgeting?
I understand the need of, I understand the concept of needs and wants and budgeting. But realistically, and this is in my opinion, you want to do some things for yourself every month. You work hard that entire month, and you want to unwind and do some things for yourself. Is it better to budget your social money, or for lack of a better term, so that you don't overspend rather than not budget it at all, because you're still going to do some socializing anyway and overspend?
Now, if you're planning to do the socializing, you don't want to sacrifice the socializing for an important expense. It has to be balanced. Because you can go out with that social event, and this is what some people need to learn to do. For me, I wanted to buy a piece of property to build an apartment for my daughter. Now, my income is only a certain amount. The property costs $29,000. So I had to sacrifice all the social expenses that I wanted. My lunch, I budgeted $2 a day if I was going out to lunch. $2. If not, I brought lunch from home. The $2 was a hot patty and a drink. Because I was working towards a goal. Now, you would always have time to socialize. You would always have time to go on a trip once your immediate goals and expenses are met. But what I'm saying is you don't want to sacrifice the important stuff just to be entertained. And I understand you have that need for the social part of it. But if it doesn't sacrifice the important expenses, you can work that in.
I think a lot of it has to do with changing the mindset and the attitude. I say that because having worked on my money and everything, I had a serious problem with people borrowing every year for vacation.
Right, me too.
They feel that they owe it to themselves, so if you owe it to yourself, then you save for it. A vacation loan should be calculated within a year's time. If you cannot repay that loan within a year, then you really should not qualify, because you cannot keep putting vacation loan on top of vacation loan on top of vacation loan. And I think our culture is such that we feel that we have to go
on vacation.
So we sacrifice our needs, our wants, or we try to keep up with the Joneses. Even at Christmas, we splurge. You know, I can talk for me. I love to give gifts, that's me. But I would be shopping. I have a closet. I shop every year. I will buy you a gift out of Macy's. I will leave the $80 price tag on it, but I paid $2.
On the sales rack.
I shop, and you shop all year, and you look for bargains, and then especially if you have a big family, and you just save them. Rather than spending thousands, go into the bank to get a Christmas loan, then go into the bank to get vacation loan, then go into the bank to get back to school loan. Why? You know, I actually stopped putting out my bank's promotional flyers because I got tired of telling them no. And the person said, but the bank is advertising this and that, but you don't qualify for it. And so until we get that mindset, it is really, really difficult to hammer budgeting into person. It has to start at an early age.
And that's why I said not to leave the children out. It has to start at that age. And I have one daughter. And no, let me qualify that. I have one daughter, and I worked in an offshore bank. And my daughter, when I shopped for her at Payless shoes. She didn't have the brand name
Come on.
clothes. Even sometimes when you go to the sales rack of some of these stores, it's still expensive. And the thing of it is, with children, they outgrow it quickly. And so I instilled in my daughter, and I could have afforded all of the expensive brand name, only one daughter, like I said. But I wanted her to be able to go to the university of her choice. So, and when you're in the offshore, you're employed for this year, and if the board of directors meet and say, we're gonna sell you to another company, or we're gonna downsize you.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, so I had to work smart. Even though I was making the money, I had to make sure I was saving, it was invested, for the time when I didn't have the job, that I could still maintain the standard that I was used to. And so, not because you have a little extra, mean you spend you have $1, you spend the entire dollar, $1.10. You want to budget and plan, and not because the banks would lend you the money, mean that you go, and during that time, like I said, when I wanted to buy that property, my daughter and I, we used to travel every December. That's just before, after Thanksgiving, just before Christmas, that little window, because I can't deal with the crowds and the heat in the summer. And when I have a project, traveling was canceled. I didn't travel those years when I was saving towards an investment that I needed to make. Now, my daughter she graduated in May from university in Halifax. She's married to a Canadian. She's living over there. Now I'm doing me. So I'm traveling now because I don't have that expense of the school fee. I have savings, but I still spend responsibly because I want to retire. Now I'm trying to save towards my retirement. So all those things that you think you may be depriving yourself of, in the long run, you'll be in a better position. But you have to look you have to. The reality is, and like the previous speaker say, if you're depending on those children, because like I said, I only had one. She's married to a blonde hair, blue-eyed Canadian. She's not coming back to take care of me. I mean, she's in Canada. You know, what I'm trying to say, she's going to be starting her own family. Well, I mean, I guess eventually I'll have to do that.
We are on our last session for today.
That's it.
This last session is entitled Ethics and Etiquette. And coming to present this session is Mrs. Bernadette Gibson, the HR manager of the Securities Commission of the Bahamas, and Ms. Vanessa Scott, a retired banker who has already shared some of her knowledge with us earlier. So let's welcome them with a warm round of applause.
Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon.
Don't fall asleep on me now, because I know you know I'll do Just hang in there, we're going to get through the day. All right, so I am going to present the first section of this session, and then Ms. Scott is going to present the second part of it, which is etiquette. So I am going to focus really on ethics, all right? And I know for you, there is a handout, you will see a handout coming around. And I know for you, you probably would ask, why is ethics important to a teacher? And I would say, we look at ethics, and I would say ethics in teaching is a way of keeping professional behavior and values in your classroom. It is a guide of standards that as a teacher, you can abide by. So you have some roadmap or some kind of guidelines that you know that you want to keep intact. And this is the kind of standards you want in your classroom. It is important to a teacher because it is a contract with oneself to keep their values in place in the classroom. These values will help you become a great teacher, not just now, but always in the future. Okay? And you would find that we were all students, and there were teachers who we admired. And really, it's because of their ethics and the standard they, imparted upon us. We tend to, you would always have a, well, I wouldn't say a favorite teacher, but someone who you want to emulate as an adult. So for me, that was good. But as a child, going to just high school, and I went to the old government high. Remember they said old government high, right? And so, and I remember, and it never leave my mind, you always find a teacher you want to emulate, and a teacher who just leaves something that is kind of negative to you. You don't ever want to have to do that. And I remember this teacher was an English teacher. And she would come to school and she's writing on the blackboard. But as she's writing on the blackboard, she has to hold her skirt down and she's writing. And she's holding the skirt to cover the hip. So you know then that is not something you want to emulate, okay? So while we're on that little piece of topic, I want to say, I encourage you to be the first, be the example, especially in terms of females. For those female students coming up in terms of dress code. So something that you know is acceptable, because you're all parents and you know you don't want to see your daughters or any young girl dressing in that manner. And likewise, I would say for the gentlemen to just do us that favor as well and sort of portray a proper dress code so they would know what it is and how they should carry themselves, because they are dressed in uniform. So as far as they're concerned, it is a uniform. They do not know then how to dress outside of that uniform. And I tend to come across a lot of that as an HR specialist and having to deal with the young people in the workplace. Wow. They cannot differentiate between work clothes, cocktail clothes, or they going out to the club or they going to the movies. They cannot separate that at all. And it is a sad thing because we grew up in an era when we knew your church clothes, right? Okay, going out clothes, and then you had the uniform. And it's so difficult to try to help them because many of them, before coming to the work world, where we would see them, they then go off to college. So they are exposed to another set of cultures as well. And environments that we do not really appreciate here because we are used to certain standards and knowing how to carry yourself in the community. I just had to add that. Okay, so as we move on, I then found 5 principles of professional ethics. And as we go forward with these principles, you would find 1, the first would be integrity, dignity, responsibility, respect, justice. And so as we go through them, I will try to cite 1 or 2 examples, and I know you will come across a lot of this as well in your teaching environment with the students. Okay, so first we're going to talk about integrity. Creating and maintaining appropriate professional relationships. Acting with impartiality, truthfulness and honesty. And if I were to say, let's cite an example of integrity, I would ask for you to respond appropriately when there's cheating in the classroom. That goes on. So you would want to respond appropriately when cheating occurs, okay? And help the students to believe in themselves. Those are some things that will relate to integrity that we can pass on to students, or we can help them in some way. And as we move on, the next would be dignity. Let's go to dignity. Valuing diversity and treating students equitably with care and compassion while respecting the uniqueness of family backgrounds. Now that says a lot. Because you know, and I know in the classrooms, you have students of different backgrounds.
Yes.
Students from different cultures. So there we bring in diversity. So we're not to differentiate between any student from the next, because they all should be treated equally.
Yes.
That is so important. And like Mr. Miller, he touched on a little bit of it this morning when he talked about you meeting these students in future. And you'll find if you were a good teacher. I had an aunt who was a teacher, and sometimes when I would be out with her, they would say, "Oh, no, Miss King, come here, let me help you." You know, you find them all these different places that you go to, you know, and not only being a teacher, in all different careers as well, you find that they still remember the good things or the way you showed them and allowed them to keep their dignity. That is so important with the students. Valuing the effort and potential and acknowledging the uniqueness of each student. Each student is different. Each of us is different. But we have to value each other's uniqueness and show respect for that. So it is so important. Okay? You would have a student, may not be as smart as another student, but you don't downgrade them or try to talk down to them or that type of thing. Try to value the effort they put into something and show them the positive side of that effort. And just doing that, they would tend to do more. You would find that they would make an effort to do more. So we move on to responsibility. Allowing priority to education and welfare of all students in our care. So your responsibility is to know that the education of that student and the welfare of that student is most important. Engaging in ongoing professional development and improving on learning strategies. You know, I say that because sometimes you find, not only in the teaching profession, and I know that you are low paid. I can attest to that. I know you're low paid. I worked at the Ministry of Education before. So I was in the public service for 15 years as well before going to the private sector. So I know, and it takes a lot, but still, I would like for you to, whenever the opportunity presents itself, to take it upon yourself to improve upon your professional development. Okay, you can do that for yourself because it's for you. And once you get knowledge, nobody can take that from you. That's you. Working collaboratively and cooperatively with colleagues in the best interest of the education and welfare of our students. So I know you would all have different classes, and everybody wants to be teacher of the year. So in competing for, you know, the best classroom or the best class and all that, do it respectfully. You know, they're your colleagues, and you want to show that you are working cooperatively with them. And so that is something I would ask that you do. And also in responsibility, I cited a few examples too, and I say, well, provide clear classroom expectations. If those things are provided for the students, you would find that at least they know what it is that you expect of them, okay? And provide clear classroom consequences, because there are also consequences in the classrooms as well. And then you can praise the students when they are responsible. So those are, good things that we could, because what it does, it keeps responsibility in their mind, that there's something that you have to do. So we go on and we talk about respect. And in terms of respect, acknowledging that relationships with students and their families, notice I said families, must be based on mutual respect. Okay, so it goes both ways, right? Trust, and where necessary, confidentiality, and acknowledging the contribution these qualities mean to students' well-being and learning. So a student parent may come in and say something to you as the teacher that's very confidential about the student or what's going on in the home environment. And they would like for you to have that, they trust you with it. And you are able to work with that student knowing what it is that that student is experiencing. So that is very important, showing respect. And another thing for the students, when you must give a penalty to a student, do it privately, with respect for that student's dignity. That one thing you do in the open class, that student will remember for life. And that's the one who may pass you up on the line in the bank. Because they remember you were not nice to them. So do it privately. Okay, and the next point I made was acting with educational colleagues and the wider community in ways which enhance the profession. Okay, so you want to do things that others out there in the community would say, I saw that lady, she must be the teacher. Because only teachers show that kind of respect. And there is justice. There we are. And being fair and reasonable. And during the class time, when you're in class, you always hear other students say, say, child, that's the teacher's pet. Yeah. Okay? Well, that's the blue-eyed boy.
I hear that one. We got a blue-eyed boy.
That's the term they use. You know what it is.
Golden boy.
Yeah, the golden boy, yeah. So, as far as they're concerned, that one can do no wrong because the teacher favors that one. I say, don't play favorites. Stay away from that. That will get you in much problems. Being committed to the well-being of individuals, the community, and the common good. It's for your students. Resolving, competing claims of different ethical principles and different groups through reflective professional discussions. So there are different groups that you see may develop around the campus and that type of thing. These are things that you would never want to paint negativism on. Try to work respectfully with all of them and be even-tuned with all of the groups. Now, this is one that I put this one in. I know we finished with the 5 of them, but this one was one that I just put in there. Just had to put it in there. Having empathy for and rapport with students, their families, guardians, colleagues, and communities. And when I say empathy, for example, be the example. You need to be the example. In the classrooms, offer collaborative group tasks. that can help, okay? And the key thing, listen. Listening is one of the most effective ways you can demonstrate empathy. They want to hear you. They want you to hear them.
Yes.
Just listen, and you'll be amazed at what you learn from just listening to the students. Committing to the students' well-being through the practice of positive influence, professional judgment, and again, empathy in practice. And I would say, above all, teachers must demonstrate integrity, impartiality, and ethical behavior in the classroom and in their conduct with parents and coworkers. But it starts with us being the example.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague who's going to bring the second part of this to you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, I see someone yawning.
Leave that on.
I am going to tell you, I am a fun person.
Ooh.
I believe in interaction. So this gentleman that was yawning is my first volunteer. I need 10 of you to come up here. 10. We're talking about etiquette in the office. All the workplace. I need 10. Don't be afraid. 10.
That's 2.
That's 3.
She called me.
So fun. Okay, that's 4. Let's have fun. Because classroom should not be boring. Classroom should be fun. Okay, you should have fun. And if you don't have fun doing what you're doing, then you're not passionate about it, and you should not be doing it. Okay. How many do we have?
7. 3 more. 2 more.
It's fun. Come. Should I volunteer somebody?
Okay, we got one more.
We have 10 volunteers. And the purpose of this exercise is to show you that in the workplace we should always have clear, concise communication. Yes. I am going to tell person number 1 something. Oh no. That is going to reach the person number 10. You'll see the difference. Yeah, we can get this right. Okay? This is a fun thing. Okay? Okay. I'm only telling you one and it passes down. So this is number 1. And it goes straight down.
It's a long message. I heard, help us out with the flat rate because we had a flat tire.
Your accent.
The original message was, I was late because I got laid up by a flat One of the first things that came out was his accent. And so that is something that we hear from our students as well.
Sometimes our accents, yes.
Because of the accent. Okay, so. All right, work etiquette. What is work etiquette? And why is it so important to adhere to it in the workplace? Now we know every job, office, or company has its own climate. We're aware of that, right?
Yes.
Every job has its own climate. What we can do and get away with in one job place, we cannot do and get away with it somewhere else. So it's important to know the climate of your workplace. We don't want to do something that's taboo because we feel that we want to do it. We must adhere. Now, work etiquette can apply to various aspects on the job, such as conversation, greetings, the big C, communication, dress code, the way you dress, dealing with clients, but in your case, students and parents and co-workers. And also we must have good manners. You know, we're from an era where the old people say, good manners will take you to the world, and that never goes out of style. Now, work etiquette ties in a lot with work ethics. They go hand in hand. Conversation rules in the workplace should be respected and adhered to. Now, you're teachers, so you're paid to talk, but not all of you are always in the classroom, and not all of you will remain in the classroom. Some of you will advance into the administrative side of it, okay? So you should respect the conversation rules in that workplace. If you're working somewhere, or if you're in the office and it says no personal conversation, then show respect. No personal conversation during work hours. Do not be there on your cell phone in the middle of something and all of a sudden you get that little and you're talking to someone but you're not paying attention because you're on your cell phone. That's not good work etiquette. Okay, that's a no-no. And that is why on some jobs there is a no phone. As a teacher in the classroom, I know your students should not have cell phones.
You shouldn't be saying all of that.
Okay? They shouldn't have it. I know my daughter is a teacher and I know they take those cell phones from them at the gate.
Yeah.
Okay? If a student has a problem, an issue, health issue, and they have to have a phone, then that information should be in the office. So, you know, the etiquette should be there. You should not really have these personal conversations going on because you're showing disrespect. That's you robbing the employer. You're being paid to work a certain amount of hours and you spending your own personal time on his time doing your personal business. Then you go to church on Sunday and you say, hallelujah. So we must.
You see that church?
Okay, so we must. Right. Ran down to Caesar. When you greet your students in the morning, you know, for every action there's a reaction. If you had a problem at home, you grumble and mumble under your breath all the way from Fox Hill to school, all the way out Life okay, you mumbling and grumbling. Man, what you think I playing? You mumble, you grumble all the way. By the time you get to school, your mood is set.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay? A child walks into the classroom. That child may need you because you are their custodian during those school hours. And I can tell you a lot happens to those children, especially the inner city children. They have a lot going on. They look up to their teachers. So they walk into the classroom. You done had a bad night. You done mumbled, you burned the toast. You might have burned your dress, and that's the dress you wanted to wear. You're grumbling all the way to work. And you slap at that child.
Poor child.
Wrong thing.
Yes.
Okay? So we must, as teachers, as adults, we must refrain from just snapping. Our greeting should always be warm and cordial. And that's why I believe teachers are special. Teachers are gifted. Okay? Because y'all don't get paid much. And let's not tell you, my daughter's a teacher. So I know she don't get paid. I'm tired of trying to still support her. But she does it out of the passion.
Right.
She does it because she loves making an impact on someone's life. She loves knowing that she was able to save someone from themselves. So I know it's a calling. I have no patience for it. So I applaud all of you. I applaud yourself. When having a conversation with a student, a parent or a co-worker, always look them in the eye. Always. Etiquette requires that you look me in my eyes. I want to see your eyes. You only said the eye is the window to the soul.
Yes.
I don't want you telling me, child, your child is doing good. Alright? But you look at everywhere except at me. You know? And then you say to yourself, I telling you your child doing good, and I said, child, I don't know why. They have this child in school, he need to go home. But you look that parent or that guardian in the eye. Let them feel you. Let them trust. Let them build that trust. Okay, and it's the same with the student. You will find that some students will actually adopt you. You don't have to adopt them. No. They will adopt you because they feel comfortable. They feel they can trust you. And they will tell you their soul.
Yes.
Okay? That's good etiquette. Build that trust. Look them in the eye. Do not be afraid to tell them they are doing wrong. If they continue on that path, they're going down the wrong path. That is what you are there to do. When you also talk to your parent, stick to the topic. Don't go on or be concise, to the point. Let them know. Don't say, well, he got on these white pants, but these dockers or these stickies. You're spending all this. Stick to the point. The parent don't need to know you spend that money, but you didn't, which we all know they do. They spend the money on the clothes and not on the books.
That's the truth.
Okay? We know that. Because that's a different stuff. That's a culture that we need to get our children out of. And it comes right back to what Ms. Gibson was saying, their need and their wants.
Yeah.
Okay? As adults, we should take care of their needs. Let them work for their wants. And not everything they want, they should get.
That's the truth.
Okay?
Don't build a character.
Just avoid straying from the topic and be attentive. Now, teachers, when we're talking about etiquette as far as communication and conversation, the rudest thing to do is to carry on a conversation when you're in a meeting. You're having your own meeting within a meeting. Y'all know about that?
Yes.
Y'all in the staff room. The principal, the senior master, trying to let you all know that Jeff Lloyd is not giving you all any more money. All of y'all having your own conversation. Right? Y'all only hear the part where they say Jeff Lloyd is not giving you any money and the conversation starts. Y'all get to hear the part where he say, until next week. Must pay attention and avoid having a conversation when someone else is talking. That is rude and it's not good office etiquette. Okay, we can sing together, we cannot all talk together, and you will miss something. Okay? Another thing that is rude to do. I'm teaching you all, I'm letting you know all these rude points. It's rude to interrupt someone when they're working. You finish teaching for the day, and you come in my class, and I'm trying to hear you. You only want gossip. You know, child, look through the window, see. I don't need to look through the window until my class is finished. Okay? You know what I'm saying? So it's rude to interrupt someone when they are teaching. Okay? Because they're working and you're being idle. Okay? Now, communication etiquette also requires that you respond to your emails or other written or verbal concerns or complaints in a timely manner. Yes. In a formal yet friendly manner. Clear on that? Always being respectful. Respectful ties right in with your ethics. The worst thing for you to do is, what's she emailing me for? Again? A child rude anyhow. Bam. Do not. Why should I respond to the email? Or they send a complaint. Headmaster, senior master asks, what is your take on this? What is your side? Child, you don't know that boy. I have him all day in class. Child, I got nothing to say on that. Broken communication. The worst thing to do, keep the communication open, respond to it, because a lot of times it just takes okay, you don't have to go into full details. I look at that when I'm finished, or that requires more work. I have to take more time with that. But get back, show the respect and respond, okay? Do not ever take things for granted, assuming that someone else will do your work for you. Office etiquette requires you to do the job for which you are hired and to go above and beyond when and if necessary to get that job done. Avoid being lazy and avoid being exact. I know all of you teachers, and I know some of you teachers say, shall I get paid to teach? Right. If they don't want to learn, that's their business. School, we elevate children from grade 2,
that's not us.
3. When they reach grade 3, they say, child, ain't no use keeping them back. Send them to grade 4. Go to grade 4, the child can't read, the child can't write, and a lot of times that child may just have a slight problem. That if you took that, just that little interest, that child's whole learning can be turned around. okay? And I see my brother here from a Catherine. I won't say, but while that strategy that out of Catherine is good, the primary section locks. I'm not calling anyone out, I'm just saying children learn early and they need that principle, reading, writing, arithmetic. If the teacher does not spend the time with reading, writing, and arithmetic from those sensitive years between 5 and 10, the child is lost. That child is lost because those fundamentals, they'll come to you in junior high, and they'll come to you in senior high, and all they're doing is passing through the system.
That's true.
And if the teacher does not have enough etiquette to spend that time and to put that energy into trying to save that child, that's another one lost in society. So I'm just saying, sometimes if you don't have the passion and the calling, our children get lost in the system. Okay? The classroom, as you know, you are that child's caregiver for however many hours you may have. I know I fuss my daughter all the time because sometimes even on Saturday, she's at school. She tells me they need 2 more BJCs in order to do this.
Yes.
Because Jeff Lloyd do this. I say, but that's not your business. Yes, mommy, I'm the homeroom teacher. Okay,
Good teacher.
Saturday she's in class, Sunday she's in class. But at the end of the day, she gets that satisfaction. If it makes her feel good, and she's not teacher of the year, you know, but she gets that satisfaction. She's teacher of the year in her heart.
Yes.
So you have to have that passion.
Very good.
It also requires that you guard the privacy of others. We touched on that in ethics. It ties in with etiquette. Okay? Have you ever walked into an office and the people on speakerphone? They're dialing and you could hear all the phones ringing. And that is the wrongest thing. That is so wrong. Or they're doing something else and they put you on speaker. No, they're not here. I don't know what time they're coming back. That is so wrong. If I wanted everybody to know my business, I would put it on the radio or in the newspaper. So, if it is very rude to put a person on speakerphone, you may be in the office and there may be other children or other teachers standing in front of you and you need to do something. But if you're working as the administrator in that office and someone comes there, you say to the person in front of you, give me a minute, I'm dealing with something else. Okay? And if that person understands office etiquette, they will wait. However, it is up to you to acknowledge them. Always acknowledge when someone comes into the room. Give me a minute, I'll be right with you. That way they know that they're not being ignored. Okay? You should also learn to manage deadlines. I know some of you teachers, there's this one, I can match some points with this. Office etiquette, especially for teachers, you must meet your deadlines. Time report card day, and half of you are still scrambling the day before, and then there's one particular teacher that has to input everything, and she's running behind everybody. Where are your grades? Where are your grades? Where are your grades? Right? Grades have to go into the system. So we must learn to meet deadlines. Deadlines are put in place for a reason. And when we do not meet deadlines, it has a domino effect. It just trickles right down, and then everything is late. And then who gets blamed? The principal. His school always late because the teachers don't meet deadline, and he probably too friendly with most of the teachers to discipline the teachers, Or some of the teachers can tell him how long they've been there, and he just come. Okay? So we must learn the importance of deadlines. Also, you must learn to be on time. If school starts 8:30, don't pull up in the schoolyard 8:29 and say, "Child, I on time." No, you're not. You're not on time because you have to walk from that car to the office to sign it in, and then you have to walk to your classroom. When you get to the office, the principal has something to ask you, so you reach to your classroom late. Okay? And you're teaching, you're sending the wrong message to your students. And there is no such thing. I researched, and I researched. I could not find Bahamian time. Bahamian time. I know on Eastern, Pacific, Central. You might be on daylight saving time right now, but there is no such thing as Bahamian time. And I think that is the biggest insult to anyone. You're invited to a 1 o'clock wedding and 3 o'clock the bride just reaches. That's an insult to the guests. That's an insult to the guests.
I agree.
And so we need to get beyond that. Even I worked on a family island. I was told a funeral was 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock now. So I lived Stafford Creek. Those of you from Andros. I lived Stafford Creek. The funeral was in Barron Point. You all know that's a good hour drive. Funeral, so I left home 12:30, because only 10 people could hold in the church. I don't dress up to stand up. Right. So I left home early enough to get to the church.
Gotta get a seat.
When I got there, the church wasn't open yet. Body was still in the okay? They didn't bring it to the church yet.
Andros time.
And so there's another time with Andros time. You said it. A funeral that starts 2 hours late and everybody content because that's the norm. And I said, no, the body is here. What else you waiting for? Start the funeral. Nope. So we must learn to respect. When you do not respect time, you do not respect time. It just is a disrespect, and it hampers the productivity of others. And we must be ever so careful. Okay? Those persons that may have to hold on for you until you get there, you're hampering their productivity. Even if they only have to hold on for you for 15 minutes, that's 15 minutes they've lost from what they were supposed to do. So let's respect time, let's respect each other. Be a team player. Once you have accepted a position, be a team player. Agree to disagree, and disagree to agree. We'll figure that one. We must also avoid, whatever you do, avoid office politics, the gossiping and the backbiting. That's not good office etiquette. Me and you mad, but you want her to speak, right? I'm speaking to her, because she's speaking to you, and I'm mad with you. That makes no sense.
That makes no sense. I agree with you.
It makes no sense. Okay, why? What did she do me?
Nothing.
She did me, but talk to her. Okay? I see her coming out of the classroom. Her books fall. Charlene speaking to her, because she speak to her. Oh, I have to go with the books. Come on, come on. Avoid the petty politicking. Avoid the office gossip.
Yes.
Because just how that message changed, I could call in and I could say, I have the flu. By the time that message go around the school, you wouldn't know what I have. We need to avoid that, okay? And then we must avoid offending our co-workers. When I say offending, sometimes we wear a perfume that's very strong. And in case some of you women don't know, some colognes are for night and some are for day.
Right.
Okay? I'll give an example. When I was pregnant many moons ago, my second child, Estee Lauder, a lot of you may not be familiar with Estee Lauder. Estee Lauder had a perfume that you only wore at night when you're in the disco and everybody's sweating up next to you, so you can still smell good. It was not a cologne to wear in the day.
And they put it on for
It was not a cologne to wear in the day. And one of my co-workers, she used to bathe in it. So when she came into the office, my nose would go this way. You know, and it tingles. And then it started. And then the baby would say, "Ooh, that." So I had to say to her, your cologne is offensive. Please, don't wear that to work. We sit in the cubicles next to her. It's offensive. And she looked at me, she said, "Well, my husband buy this." I say, "Well, his sweetheart must be wearing that. He wants to smell like you don't wear that to work." But she did not wear it anymore. She understood and she said, "I will not wear it because I know what it is for pregnant women." So she obliged me. So there are times when we have to oblige our co-workers and try not to be offensive. And we should always possess a friendly attitude.
Yes.
Always be friendly. Sometimes you don't feel like it, but it can make someone's day.
Yes.
Okay, like I said, for me, I live behind a mask. You'll never know if I'm hurting because that's nobody's business when I'm in the public. When I step into the public, they're not expecting this long. Child, my husband gonna leave me, sweetheart dead. That's nobody's business. Because they talking that anyway, so you don't have to tell them that. Okay? Sometimes they talking what you don't even know. They talking what you don't even know. So when they talk about you, let them say, "Oh yeah, how come she always happy?"
Right.
And then she must don't know that, or she must don't know that. Yes, she knows it, but it's none of your business. So always try to leave. Whatever's happening at home, when you leave home, you leave that there. Do not bring it into your classroom. It's not good etiquette. Okay? Be confident. Be confident and believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. If you do not believe in yourself, you cannot pass that on to your students. Okay? Because you will leave your students guessing. You're not sure about yourself. So how do you expect them to be sure? Pass it on. Now, we touch on this in ethics as well. Always dress properly. Be neat, be clean, be comfortable, and personal hygiene is so important.
Oh yeah.
Body odor is the most offensive thing you could bring to school. Body odor is the most offensive thing you could bring to school. Now, if you do not believe in antiperspirant, because some people say, "Oh, that can clog up your pores and you can get cancer." I don't want no antiperspirant, so then use deodorant. That's different. Deodorant is different from antiperspirant. Now, if you don't want to use the deodorant, you go in the store and you buy one pack of baby wipes. Keep the baby wipes on you. If you know the classroom don't have no AC and outside it's 100, when you finish that class, you go in the bathroom, you take one baby wipe, you wipe underneath your arm because you know it smells. Oh, you get baby wipe and you wipe underneath here.
Yes.
Keep yourself fresh because you're dealing with students.
Right.
You're dealing with the general public and body odor. Now I be talking
Yeah.
real here.
Yeah.
Okay, body odor is
Yes.
very offensive. So if it's not your culture, find other things to do. Baby wipes cheap.
Yeah.
Yes. And you buy the ones that smell like powder, gonna make it smell good. Okay? Keep your baby wipes and you just freshen up throughout the day. All right. And then I bet they won't have to avoid you. Sometimes you in the lunchroom and you wonder why nobody's sitting next to you. Do not be known for the person who you smell before you see. Okay? And teachers, I'm serious. The children will talk about you too, you know. The children will talk about how you smell bad.
Yes.
They can tell you to your face, you may catch them, but they can talk about how you talk, you smell bad. All right? And dress appropriately. I know general rules. Y'all have general rules.
Yes.
Women, we don't want to see your Cleveland. Okay? That's not the place. Leave Ohio home. Cover them up. Okay? The principal does not want to know whether you're a B, C, or D cup. Your children, especially when you're dealing with young men, you're teaching these young men, and you standing up in front of them, Cleveland, Ohio, looking all the way to Pennsylvania. Stop it. Dress appropriately. And you do not wear these spandex pants. Spandex pants is not for work.
Say it again.
Spandex pants, when you walk down, and I'm talking real, because I see some of these teachers, they have cauliflower hips. You wear the spandex pants, okay? You have on the spandex pants, and it clean, so it shows every lump. That is not appropriate for work. Your pants should be loose fitting, all right? It should be loose fitting. Ladies, I'm talking real. Then we don't want to see your socks got diamonds or stripes because they all the way up here. Dress appropriately. The children are sitting there, the children are watching, they are emulating, and you cannot properly discipline the children if you are not leading by example. Okay? You cannot discipline them. Learn what is for church, what's for cocktail, what's for work. I see some teachers and they are 6-inch stilettos. Those are not work shoes. I don't care how sexy you may think. Those shoes are not for school. You must be real. They are comfortable. You must be comfortable. And then I'm winding down. We're touching on impartiality, which was also touched on in ethics. You must be impartial and fair at all times. Do not have these pets. I vividly remember I have a teacher that she went to her grave and I hated her. I had to ask forgiveness, but she always nitpicked. She always picked on me. And you know what I did? I passed that GCE with a B, just to show her that, and her pet got a C. That teacher gave me a B+++. 3 pluses before she gave me an A. She would not give me an A. I was the only student I had. Sometimes I had 6 pluses behind my She taught me English language and she taught me English literature. And I said, if I don't pass anything else, I'll pass those 2. I got B's in the 2 of them. The only thing I got an A in was cookery. But I got But I proved up. So we need to get away from being partial to these students. Because you're not helping them. You're not helping Now, those of you that have lunchrooms and you go in and to heat up your lunch, but she said you don't, you just bring your lunch from home. It's offensive to heat up your fish and your garlic
Crab.
and all them crab, and the whole school could smell it.
Come on. Yes.
Don't let your crab and rice done be too late. That's offensive. So we must learn not to be offensive in that area. You can smell the first, you can smell the lunch before you see it. And it happens because even if you go into some government office and the people sit down there, you can smell that someone is out for lunch. And that's offensive. And never eat at your desk. That's offensive. Okay, don't eat your food. And learn your children's names. Learn the names of your children and learn them so that they can know that you appreciate them and you value them. Okay, do not say tingle. Or that boy down the road.
Or you there. Or you there.
Or hey, you. I need you. Okay? Learn their names so that you get better, you deal with them, and they will know that you value them. Okay? So basically that's it. There's some more things we can touch on, classroom etiquette, but it ties in with ethics. So like I said, I believe in lively sessions. Oh yeah, one other thing, that's right. That ties in with real teaching, and you have to deal with people winding up right now. Child, Mentos cheap. Keep those Mentos in your pocket.
I can't even
Carry the little toothbrush, especially if you can have codfish or crab and rice or whatever. When you're finished, just brush your mouth out, especially if you have to go back to the student. If you don't have toothpaste, just go right in the bathroom, put a handful of water in your mouth, squish it from side to side, do it up and down, roll it over, and then spit it out. Cleanse your mouth because you're dealing and you don't want that bad breath. You know, and sometimes your breath's so bad that when you breathe, you could smell it. And when you could smell your breath, you know your breath bad. Okay, so let's try to work on that. It's been my pleasure. Any questions for us?
I actually do have a question. So I'll ask you quickly. I wanted to know what was your opinion on casual Fridays in the workplace. I came from a school where casual Fridays were okay, and then I went into a school where casual Fridays weren't okay, and I mean I don't feel any particular way about it because I understand both, and I just wanted to know your opinion on it.
Okay, I have no problem with casual Fridays. As a matter of fact, when I was in banking, I spent 42 years in banking, and we had casual Fridays. However, casual Fridays should still have a dress code.
Yes.
I do not believe casual Fridays you should come in the jeans with the cutout, and I don't know why people pay full price for half and have the jeans out, and they string it. And then, you know, your spaghetti strap. No. If you are casual Friday, you should still be neatly dressed, but just down a bit from your, you know. Yeah, you should not, and you should still make sure that Cleveland does not go to Ohio. All those things you should still be, because the children are still looking at you.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions?
What's your take on students do have nicknames, or they call them pet names at times, and they feel when they're called by their pet name, they feel, what do you think about that in classroom for a teacher to say, okay, so-and-so, come and do something on the board? They feel a lot more confident, less intimidated because you have like connected with them, with their pet name.
Well, to begin with, your pet name does not go on your school certificate. So a pet name, I feel, that's an intimate thing. And it should not, I have a problem with that. I honestly do not believe. I'll give you an example. Sometimes people are asking you, do you know so-and-so, so-and-so? And you know that person so well, but you never knew that was their name. Because all you know them as is dog. Okay? And then to realize that their name is Albert. So I feel that whatever your birth name is, when you're registered for school, you register with your birth name. When you go into the classroom, your birth name is on that register. When your teacher is calling register, taking the daily register, I'm not asking if dog in class because my dog home. I'm asking for Albert. So Albert, so whatever the children may call, that's between them. And I think teachers should refrain from referring to these students by their pet name.
I agree.
Okay? And if one of the students happen to be your child, and then you call that child by whatever name outside of the classroom setting, the classroom setting should be formal for that child. It's a learning process. We must remember in that classroom, you are preparing that child, you're preparing that student for the real world. I can't go on a job interview for dog. So I need to be able to start, you know, so I don't believe students should be called by pet names in classroom.
Let's give Ms. Scott and Thank you, ladies, so much for your time and your information. Wasn't it just lively and exciting? Wonderful, wonderful job, well done. And we are at the end of our first day, and we are excited to go on with all of what we have experienced today. And I want to give out 2 giveaways from BIFS. And so let's see. Let's talk about 3 points. If someone can give me 3 points Ms. Scott made about some of the key areas in ethics in the workplace. She gave a list of important points.
Integrity, dignity, and responsibility.
Justice.
Yeah.
That was, that was
No, that was the first person.
Mrs. Gibson, but that was my next question. So I figured I would start with the most recent one. Let's give her a hand. And she is my former student.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Okay, so that was ethics from Mrs. Gibson. Let's hear 3 points Ms. Scott made about etiquette in the workplace. The important points that we should consider. Anyone can answer.
Manage deadlines, be on time, avoid office politics.
Yes.
Okay, let's give Mrs. Macklin.
I answer if I could answer. I sat, listened, and took notes.
Everybody should.
Thank you. And I want to say on behalf of everybody. I want to say to this, on behalf of everyone, it was a pleasure. And we look forward to day number 2. So by the food also. The food was and so we are done for the day.
Thank you. Yeah, I know.
Yes, thank you.
Very good.
May God's grace and mercy be with us as we leave this place and head on to our separate homes. May He cover us, keep our family, our friends, and our loved ones. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen.